PAP activity number 9. Communication. How do you answer that question? Stay tuned. Hello, I'm your host Zack, and today we're gonna go to the following question of the PAP assessment form, how your disability affects you, and all the information I'm providing here is from Citizen Advice, benefitsandwork.co.uk, and of course the government's website. I'm gonna read everything from here. If you haven't watched my previous videos, please click the link somewhere to watch also the rest of the questions that you might want to find how to answer those questions. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the citizen advice as always. So it's question number 9. How your condition makes it difficult for you to speak to others so that you're understood, hear and understand what other people are saying to you. It doesn't matter whether English is your first language. You'll be assessed on wherever you have difficulties communicating in your first language. If you are deaf or partially deaf, this is the most important question on the form. 9A. Do you use an aid or appliances to communicate with others? Question 9, activity number 7. Communicating verbally. What does this question means? This question is about how you should probably tick yes if you're using a hearing aid or an electrolarynx. I don't know what that is. Something else to help you at home, for example, a light up doorbell or text phone. You are using an amplifier that helps you hear conversations. You use an aid either all the time or sometimes. Question number B. Do you need help from another person to communicate with others? You should probably tick yes if you need an interpreter or signer. A friend or family member fill in the gaps in conversations. You lip read. You have Asperger's syndrome or autism and find it difficult to communicate with people. You have Tourette's syndrome. Your medication makes it difficult to concentrate on a conversation. You need help, but you don't get it. It's important to tell the DWP more by explaining your situation in the box you're gonna see in the form. It's your chance to give DWP a true picture of how your condition affects your ability to communicate. They'll use this to decide if you get into PAP. You can also use this the extra space you're gonna find in the form to explain what help you need but you don't get. If your conditions makes you anxious, or if you need someone to help you calm you down or make sure you're safe when you're communicating with people, you should explain this in question 11 when it's going to be mixing with other people, not to this one. List all the aids you use to help you communicate, like a hearing aid, amplifiers, or a vibrating alarm. Never miss an aid of your list because you think it's obvious, and always explain how they help you. Make it clear if a health professional advised you to use them. Include any that will help you if you had them and why you don't have them, or why you don't use them. And include any that your conditions prevent you from using. So if now in someone's encourage you, supervise or assist you, if you get help, say who helps you, for example, carer or a friend, and explain why they help you, how they help you, and how often they help. Make it clear if you need them to explain what people are saying or what you're saying to them. Interpret using sign language. Be on hand, for example, to make sure that you feel safe. Always explain what happened or would happen if you don't get help. For example, you wouldn't be able to follow a conversation. You'd avoid speaking to people. You'd misunderstand an important instruction. You'd forget what people have told you or what you've said. You'll feel isolated. Now, the time it takes. Think about whether it takes you at least twice as long to communicate as someone without your condition. This might sound difficult to estimate, but consider whether things need to be repeated or if conversations need to be slowed down so that you can understand. Remember to include time for breaks in conversations if you need them. Explain if it's slower, explain if it's slower on a bad day. Say if it takes longer if you have to communicate a lot in one day. Now, good days and bad days, we said that not to include any good days, but I'll read it from here. Explain how you cope on both good days and bad days and how you manage over a longer period of time, like a week or so. This gives the DWP a better picture on how you cope most of the time. Make it clear if you have a good days and bad days, how often you have bad days, if you have bad days more often than not, and how your difficult and symptoms differ on good days and bad days. For example, you feel so down, you don't take in what people are saying. Symptoms like pain, breathlessness, and tired. Explain whether the difficulties you have communicating cause you any physical or mental symptoms like pain, discomfort, tiredness, or feeling down. It's helpful to explain the symptoms and give an example, including how often you have them, how long they last, and if they affect your ability to carry out any of the other activities on your PAP claim form. Safety risks. Tell the DWP if you have or might get into danger because you have trouble communicating. For example, you should mention if you ever had trouble telling someone that you need medical help, if you're telling someone that you have an allergy or something. Make it clear why it can happen and how often it can happen, how badly could affect you, and how you try to prevent it. For example, you'd rely on someone to explain things for you. It is because someone didn't help you, or if it caused you confused or have trouble remembering. Your form will be something like that. So you have the question here, and then you're gonna have play. Now from the benefit and work. This is a little quite long, so I will try to keep it as quick as possible. Question number 9, activity number 7, talking, listening, and understanding. What is that activity about? So it's more like what I just read, but this in a more depth, yeah? So this activity is about your ability to reliably speak in a way that people will understand, and also to understand what other people are saying to you. It is high relevant to people who have hearing difficulties. It is also relevant to people who do not have hearing difficulties, but who have verbal communication difficulties due to their mental health. For example, stress, anxiety, or schizophrenia. It may overlap with question 11, mixing with other people's, and it may be possible to score points for both. If it takes you a long time, you can do it safely to a reasonable standards or as often as you need to, then you should definitely complete this section. The law. Remember words like an aid, prompting, supervision, and assistance appears in many activities and have a strictly legal definition. In this activity, the following words and phrases also have strict legal definitions. Communication support means support from a person trained or experienced in communicating with people with specific communication needs, including interpreting verbal information into a non-verbal form and vice versa. Basic verbal information means information in your native language conveyed verbally in a simple sentence. Complex verbal information means information in your native language conveyed verbally in either more than one sentence or one complicated sentence. Guidance for health professionals give examples of simple sentence. Can I help you? I would like tea, please. I came home. The time is 3 o'clock. And also of a complex sentence. I would like tea, please. Just a splash of milk and no sugar, as I always have sweeteners with me for when I go out. So that's a complex. Number 8. Does your condition affect you? Talking, listening, and understanding. Only put a cross in the no box if you are sure that this activity doesn't apply. You should consider this information above, including whether the descriptors apply to you, taking into account the definitions and whether you can do it reliably. If you're unsure, try answering the 6 questions below. Tell us, not now, in a bit. Tell us about the difficulties you have with talking, listening, and understanding, and how you manage it. This is your opportunity to explain in your own words why you should score points for this activity. Your answers should cover all of the following 6 points. Remember reliable. As was explained in reliably, the most important PIP word above, you should not be considered able to do something if, for example, you aren't safe doing it, or cause you pain or discomfort, or it exhausts you, or you you very slow at doing it. For example, if it takes you a very long time to say a few words, then this may count as not being able to speak. What condition cause you problem? You need to make the link between the effects of your condition and the problems you have with talking, listening, and understanding. Otherwise, the decision maker may argue that you simply prefer to have help or find it more convenient to use an aid. For example, you may have had a stroke which has affected your speech, make it difficult for people to understand what you're saying. Or you may be deal and communicate using, maybe it's deaf, or you may be deaf and communicate using British Sign Language rather than speech. Or you may have a neurodevelopmental disorder which makes it hard for you to process complex sentences. What are the problems you have? You need to explain in as much detail as possible what problems you have. As we explain in reliably, the most important PAP word above, you need to include details about the time. Does it take you more than twice as long as other people? Is there a danger to you or anyone else? Standards. How well can you do it? And does it cause you issues such as pain, fatigue, or breathlessness? And repeatedly, can you do it as often as reasonably required? Guidance used by the DWP suggests that communication support can include people like professional signers, but it can also include someone directly experienced in communicating with the claimant themselves, for example, a family member. So if close family members can understand what you say, but you struggle to be understood by strangers, then that might count as needing communication support, and give details on the form. Your ability to lip read should not be taken into account when deciding whether you're able to communicate. And there's a quotation about court case, which is parenthesis CPIP/315/2018 parenthesis close. DWP guidance stated that individuals who cannot express or understand verbal informations and will need communication support to do so should receive the appropriate descriptors even if they do not have access to the support. For example, a deaf person who cannot communicate verbally and does not use sign language might need another person to support them in another way, such as by writing verbal information down, even if they do not routinely have such help. Overlap with the activity of mixing with other people, the question 11. If you have a condition or combination of conditions where you need help with both communicating verbally and mixing with other people, you may able to score points for both activities. Do you use aid or appliances? If, because of your health conditions or disability, you need to use aid or appliances in order to communicate with others, then you may score 2 points for 7B question, unless a higher scoring descriptor also applied to you. If you do not use them, please read on, because the decision maker may say that you should and award fewer points unless you deal with this. The kind of things you might be relevant includes hearing aid, hearing loop, cochlear implant in the ear, electrolarynx, electronic voice box or voice torch, text-to-speech synthesizer, and communication board. Caution: decision maker may argue that you could use an aid or appliances as an alternative to having help from another person. If there is a reason why the aid or appliances would not mean you didn't need their help, explain why. For example, your hearing loss may be of a type that would not be assisted by a hearing aid. Guidance to health professionals tells them that if the claimant is not using a prescribed hearing aid, ask why. If there's a good medical reasons, such as chronic ear infections, functions with the aid should be assisted. If there is not a good reason, explain functions with the aid should be assisted. Overlap with activity of mixing with other people. If you have a combination example of condition where you need help with both communication verbally and mixing with other people, you may be able to score points for both activities, as we said earlier. Number 4, should you have help from another person? Help include help you need but you don't get. 5, is there a particular time of the day when you have problems? If there's a time of the day when you need to do an activity but you can't, then you should score points even if you can do it at any other time of the day. Number 6, do your abilities vary? Is your condition affects you in the same way all the time? It's important that you say so. If your condition is variable, it's equally important that you explain how it varies and how this affects what you can do. To get points, you need to show that you are affected for more than 50% of the day over a 12 months period. If you have usually periods of days, weeks or months when you are able to do an activity, then explain this and give the best estimate of how much of the time this is. For example, although they're used repeatedly on the PAP2, don't like to use so. Some sample answers. Try and answer the 6 following questions. What condition caused you problem? What are the problems you have? Do you use aid or appliances? Should you have help from another person? Is there a particular time of the day when you have problems? Do your ability varies? We just read about those. Now I'm going to do some examples. In the order that I just mentioned. Because of Parkinson's disease, I have trouble controlling both the volume and speed of my speech. This results in me mostly speaking very slowly and very quietly. In addition, I involuntarily repeat words and in general my sentence become slurred, SLURRED, jumble that people have difficulty understanding. There is no aid or appliances that can help with this. Family and friends have become very patient and spend a lot of time ensuring they have understood me correctly. However, when in circumstances that require me to talk to other people, for example, shops or the job center, etc., it is very difficult to get across what I'm trying to say. On many occasions, people have become impatient, which make it even more difficult to control my speech. I always try to take someone with me to help interpret what I am saying. When I need to talk to someone who does not know me well, and I no longer use the telephone. I always have at least this level of difficulties at any time of the day, and it can get even worse when I am very tired. My condition does not vary from day to day. Example number 2, I have problems with the activity because I am deaf. My first language is British Sign Language, not English. I can speak English, but people often when difficulty understanding me, and many people get embraced or impatient and trying to avoid communication with me. This can happen in all my everyday communications, in shops or public transport and at work. Although I can lip read, this is very difficult with people who are not experienced at speaking in any way, which make it lip reading easier. As a result, I need people to speak slowly. Often they have to repeat things several times, and even then I do not always understand. In the past, when I have tried to communicate with hearing people without an interpreter, I have had to cope with people being very rude and aggressive or not understanding me and getting embarrassed. Either way, I've ended up not being able to communicate effectively and often being left very upset by what was happening. There is no aid that can help me with communications. If there is an interpreter with me, they can help me to communicate with hearing people. I have difficulties communicating with hearing people at all times of the day and every day of the week. And that's it. And this is how you answer number 7 activity number 7, question number 9, communication on your PAP. Hope you like this video and find it very helpful. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't watched the previous questions or the previous PAP videos, click the like above and they will take you there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon. In the next one will be I think it's reading. See you then. Bye bye.